significant on Indian goods, which is why they had taken a hit. Anuj Gupta joining us now to discuss this further, MD Bauer Asia. We also have Bharat Barai, foreign affairs expert, joining us live. Also with us, Ravi Karkara, founder Invest NYC Forum. Let me begin with you first, Anuj Gupta, by asking you about the impacts of this tariff reduction now. How beneficial will this be for these Indian goods in particular, which are really consumed in the US and had all taken a hit due to the steep increase of the tariffs in the US last year?
Thank you. I think first we have to get the facts in order. The fact is, despite so-called US sanctioned tariffs, Indian exporters are having record numbers over the last few months. In December, the last month for which data is available, we actually exported a 10-year high. So Indian exporters, Indian entrepreneurs are very, very deft at figuring out various new avenues for their exports. Now, the US deal and the EU deal are a shot forward for them. And I will not be surprised that Indian exports grow at 20 to 30% going forward. And all the sectors you spoke about, like agriculture, like textiles, leather, etc., will really skyrocket going forward. So there are multiple areas where we'll benefit. And I will say there is a very, very narrow Trumpian view of the world, which says exports are good, imports are bad. That is actually a flawed view. We should look at and welcome imports also. Imports help us as input goods for further production. Imports help us to reduce the prices we pay for consumption, bring down inflation. So I see three areas where US imports will help us. Number one, US will give us technology, so our mobile phones can get cheaper. US will give us cheaper crude and gas, so petrol prices, diesel prices can potentially come down. And lastly, it will give us cheaper coal. So your electricity prices, which you spend a lot on to heat your room in today's winter or cool your room in summer, they will all come down. So the deal will create lakhs of jobs in India, will make the consumers happy, will make our farmers happy. It's a great win-win deal.
Yes, indeed. Bharat Parai, let me bring you in here now. How beneficial is this deal going to be for India and the US? Clearly a lot of products which were sent to the US from India, like desi ghee, basmati rice, fisheries like shrimp had taken a hit. Are you hopeful now that this correction will happen very, very fast, and this price reduction, of course, will be passed over to exporters very, very soon?
Yes, I think so. This will be a great deal, especially for the consumers and also for the US Treasury. And on the India side, it will be a great deal for exporters. About half the exports coming from India in electronic goods, mobile phones, especially iPhones, which are now quite a bit manufactured in India, they were duty exempt. But the textile industry, the leather goods industry, the seafood industry, those were quite a bit adversely affected. And removing the tariff or reducing it from 50% to 18% will give a good cost advantage. Let's not forget that while India or Indian exporters were paying 50%, the neighboring countries, which are also competing in terms of clothing and in terms of leather goods, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Vietnam. Pakistan and Bangladesh were around 19%, Vietnam was around 20%. So the Indian exporters were at a disadvantage, paying almost 30% more for their exports. So now the playing field will be even or slightly advantageous to the Indian exporters because Indian exporters will be at 18%, while Pakistan, Bangladesh, Vietnam will be 19 and 20%. So I think it will be a great deal, and we have become in India a hub for electronic manufacture. Once the trade tension is removed, more industries may be encouraged to try to shift to India as an alternate source of supply chain. I can tell you that in USA, China is very much hated by most people. Many people say that we don't want it China. But reality is a lot of goods that is coming in USA, consumer goods, little things, they are made in China. So they were looking for an alternate source of supply chain. And I think that will solidify India's role as supply chain number 2 and hopefully may become number 1. Let's not forget that China has a 37% plus 10% old, so 47% duty on most of the items. So India will have advantage at 18% versus China at 47%. I think this will generate a lot of jobs for people in India, and I very much wish for them that so many families will have their own income source.
Yes. Ravi Karkara, what are you hoping will be the immediate impact of these tariff reductions? Which sectors now stand to benefit from all of this? And how soon are you hoping that this price correction will happen once again of Indian goods and their steep price increases that I just pointed out at the start of the show?
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me back, and always great to listen to Balaji and also learning from Anuj here. I think the most critical piece is, you must have seen in US, and we've discussed this on your show multiple times. We are living in a world which is really powered by AI, and AI completely has replaced, SaaS, which means that the traditional skilled workers, which are going from India on the service side, are something which are going to be, looking at new opportunities. I think if the Europe FTA was a fantastic boost on production and manufacturing, I think as the earlier panelists have said, I think this will act as a booster. And why do I say that India needs it? We have a young population, we need them to be skilled, really being contributing into supply chain, manufacturing, and the list goes on. So I think this is definitely a very, very important booster for us. Second is that, this will further kind of increase the importance of other FTAs which are in the pipeline. I'm really hopeful about Canada coming in, Brazil coming in, and probably Chile coming in the future. And that will really be a game changer. So I think on the point in terms of US, it is really a beneficial stand. And I think I don't know how many times we've discussed on your show that we've always said the business community is going to make this work. I think Balaji and I were also a few months ago saying the same thing, that no matter what happens, we need to stay focused because US and India have to work together and will find a way to work together. So we really want to look at the formal, declaration. Hopefully, I don't know if there's a surprise, some kind of a signing going to happen, because probably at today Trump needs it more than Modi ji, some kind of a booster for his own political, standing where he stands. Second is really getting to the nitty-gritty. So we know that there are some important discussions on technology. Space is going to be critical. Semiconductors are going to be very, very critical. And looking at that manufacturing, as he said, that is just not looking at, telephones, but all the bigger things. We were having a conversation where the Caterpillar will look at a technology transfer or some kind of setup, because one thing that many of us realize sitting in US is that even if you look at manufacturing, there are very few industries in America which have moved into dark factories, which means that you still need people to come and work with factories. So if you look at the Foundry Association of America, which is really looking for workers to come into these mammoth, ginormous factories, you need people to come. There is a problem with Gen Z that they are not really enrolling for technical and manufacturing jobs. So SESME, which is the consortium of manufacturers in America, is trying to woo in people from especially younger generations to come and say, we have these factories, come and work. So this is something which America is dealing with, which means, and if on your question, that it is Indian workers and probably these folks who have to be skilled into all these areas of production. India has proven it very well. You've seen it with Samsung, you've seen it with Apple, and hopefully with others will follow. So I think this is the optimism, and I'm very, very excited. I've remained always saying that, let's get this moving. And I think it'll be good to see this in paper, signed off, and really endorsed. So this is perfect timing. Couldn't have gone better. So I must say that this is a brilliant, step for us. Thank you.
Indeed, and Anuj Gupta, now, of course, the expectations from the US as well. Have you been able to gauge what those are? The concessions that India now is going to offer the US in return for this reduction in tariffs and duties? What have you managed to pick up and learn so far, even though the official joint statement and the nitty-gritties haven't come out just yet?
No, I think we have to go by some of the things President Trump has indicated. So there definitely will be certain concessions in the areas of what I said earlier in terms of crude and gas, technology, as well as areas around agriculture. So, for example, today we are able to export our mangoes to America as part of an earlier agreement. And if we are able to, for example, get American ethanol, and there are times when in the country we have a lot of surplus capacity around ethanol mills and they are lying idle. So if we can get feedstock of ethanol from US or even processed ethanol, which will help us meet our green objectives. As you already know, E20 is in force in India. There is a lot of ethanol demand. Potentially E20, as Mr. Gadkari has said, can go up to E25, E30. E25, E30, for the benefit of viewer, I'll explain, is E25 means 25% of your petrol will be ethanol blended. So as the number goes up, as India looks at alternate fuels, we will require a lot of ethanol and US can become a very cost competitive supplier. If I may just give the numbers over here, the global price of ethanol, which we can import from US, is 52 cents a liter. In India, when we produce ethanol, it costs 78 cents a liter. So there is a difference of about 25 cents per liter, which is 25 rupees per liter we pay extra because of extra cost in India. If you are able to get American ethanol, the consumer and the farmer potentially can have a surplus of 25 rupees. So, for example, the petrol price can come down by 12 rupees and the farmers can be given the remaining 12, 13 rupees. It can be a massive win-win. So, as I said earlier, trade benefits everybody. We need to open our mind. We need to be open to the world, and multiple possibilities can emerge.
Okay, let me take that to you as well, Bharat Barai, on the potential that this US-India trade deal is now going to have for our strategic partnership as well. Given the fact that these fissures have finally now been ironed out, do we hope for the other cooperation also to resume, hopefully sooner rather than later?
I agree. This is going to reduce the tension that had prevailed between the two countries. It will take away the barrier. So hopefully in the field of education, in the field of technology, in the field of defense cooperation, and also in the diplomatic field, it will keep on bringing the two countries together. I mean, if you look at it, we are really the natural partners. We are the two largest democracies in the world. And I have to tell you an interesting quote from Siddharth Shankar Ray. In 1993, when he was India's ambassador to USA, and he told me this story himself, he says when he presented his credentials to President Bush, the senior, he introduced himself saying, "Mr. President, I represent the largest English-speaking country in the world." We don't realize, but we have probably 600 to 800 million people in India who speak reasonably good English, and probably some more who speak, spoken English a little bit here and there. We are the two diverse countries. We have the pluralistic model. We have most educated people as percentage-wise, both in USA as well as India. In the field of technology, in the field of medicine education, we have close cooperation. So all those things which saw a little bit of a barrier or a wall, now that will taken down. I hope that it will result in granting more visas, including H-1B or J-1 visas to people of Indian origin, reducing the backlog from 27 to 26 in terms of people who are still waiting their passports to be stamped. We are the largest diaspora, Indian diaspora in the United States. When you look at the total Indian diaspora of about 33 million people all over the world. So I think this will accelerate the cooperation between the two countries in all different fields.
Okay, okay. Ravi Karkara, I'll quickly, get your closing comment on, of course, the other aspects also now, which will have to be looked at as to how much of sanctioned oil we're going to bring down further. It already has come down to a significant level. Also, Venezuelan oil purchasing now, that is something that the US also expects from India. What kind of rate will we get that? What the modalities will be? Also, the commitment of purchase of US goods as well. That figure has been announced by Donald Trump in his tweet. Which areas will that be in is also something we're going to have to obviously look at closely, isn't it, Ravi?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Pratap, I think everybody's anxiously looking at, what numbers will come through. And that's why, like I earlier commented, we want to see the documents signed off so that we have all the real figures. But I think definitely India is going to be guzzling more and more oil and gas, coal. I think somewhere there has to be a critical thing as a negotiating point, right? Because although Trump has said, India will not buy, but India has not said anything. And that's always been India's very clear stand. It'll impact the oil and gas market, definitely. I think we will see completely the market reacting very soon, or maybe we already have seen something coming through. Uh, uh, I think for India at this point, when you're looking at boosting production, manufacturing, job creation, etc., you need a very reliable, long-term sustained energy source. So whether it's going to be one or multiple of them, yes, there are a lot of questions about the Venezuelan oil, the ethics and everything, but right now it is in the market. So I think as India's policy has always been that we will buy where the oil is cheap and look at our own interest, to make sure that we are going to grow. I think coal will be another interesting factor, to see, and I'll be interested to hear Anuj and Bharatji's point of view, whether there will be coal which will come through and any other areas that come through.
In fact, I want to just hold that thought. I also want to, in fact, quickly get in Dr. Mukesh Aghi, President and Chief Executive Officer, US-India Strategic Partnership Forum as well, for his viewpoint. Mukesh Aghi, the deal finally, of course,